Have you ever wondered why some people study less but score more? Welcome to a journey into the world of effective learning techniques, a realm where study smarter, not harder, is the mantra. We're going to debunk some common misconceptions about studying and shed light on techniques that can help you learn more efficiently. We're talking practical, actionable strategies that can transform your study habits and boost your grades. So if you're keen on supercharging your learning prowess, stick around if you want to discover how to upgrade your learning game. Scene script. Ever heard of the Pomodoro technique? Imagine a tomato-shaped kitchen timer. That's the Pomodoro, an Italian word for tomato, which gave this technique its name. The Pomodoro technique is a time management method developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 80s. It's simple, effective, and it can revolutionize the way you work or study. Here's how it works. You set a timer for 25 minutes and dedicate this time solely to one task. No checking your phone, no quick peeks at social media, just undistracted, focused work. This is called one Pomodoro. Once the timer rings, you take a short break of about 5 minutes. This cycle repeats 3 more times. After completing 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, usually 15 to 30 minutes. Why does it work? The Pomodoro technique leverages the fact that our brains function best in sprints rather than marathons. Short bursts of concentrated work followed by brief periods of rest allow our minds to recharge, reducing mental fatigue and maintaining a high level of focus throughout the day. It's not just about working hard, but working smart. By breaking your work into manageable chunks, the Pomodoro technique makes large, intimidating tasks seem less daunting. It also adds a sense of urgency as you race against the clock to complete your task within each Pomodoro. So you see, the Pomodoro technique is more than just a time management tool, it's a lifestyle change. It encourages discipline, helps you to avoid multitasking, and trains your brain to focus. It's a simple but powerful technique that can help you to be more productive and efficient in your work or studies. Remember, the key to the Pomodoro technique is consistency. Stick to it and don't give in to distractions. It might be tough at first, but with time you'll get used to it and you'll start to see the benefits. Give the Pomodoro technique a try and you might be surprised at how much more you can achieve. Next up is a technique called spaced repetition. Now, you might be wondering, what is this all about? Well, let's dive in and unravel it. Spaced repetition is a learning technique that involves reviewing information at increasing intervals over time. Imagine you're trying to memorize the phrase carpe diem. You might first repeat it after 15 minutes, then after an hour, then perhaps after a day, and so on. The idea is to challenge your brain just when it's about to forget the information, thereby strengthening the memory. But why does it work? It's all about how our brains function. You see, our brains are wired to remember information that appears to be important. And how do we signal to our brain that something is important? By revisiting it repeatedly over time. This is precisely what spaced repetition does. This technique is not just a fancy theory, but it's backed by substantial research. Studies have found that spaced repetition can significantly improve long-term retention of information. It's like a workout for your memory, where instead of building muscles, you're building neural pathways. So, how can you implement spaced repetition in your learning routine? It's simple. Review your study material at regular intervals. You can start by revisiting the information after a day, then after 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, and so forth. And remember, it's not about cramming, but understanding and recalling the information. There are also numerous apps and software available that can help you with this. They'll remind you when it's time to review certain information, taking the guesswork out of the equation. But let's not forget the one golden rule: consistency. It's crucial to stick to your schedule for spaced repetition to work effectively. So there you have it, the powerful technique of spaced repetition, a method that can transform your learning process, making it more efficient and less strenuous. Remember, repetition is the mother of learning, and spacing it out can make it even more effective. Now, let's dive into active recall. Imagine a scenario where you're reading a book. You're completely engrossed, absorbing every word. However, when you close the book and try to recount what you've read, you find it challenging to recall the details. That's where active recall comes into play. Active recall is a learning technique that focuses on retrieving information from your memory without relying on cues or hints. It's like pulling a file out from the depths of a cabinet in your mind. The act of retrieving this file helps to reinforce its presence, making it easier to access in the future. So, how does active recall work? It's quite simple, really. Instead of passively reading or watching a video, you actively engage with the material. You ask yourself questions about what you've just learned and try to answer them without looking at the material. This method puts your brain to work, creating a stronger connection to the information. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds hard. And you're right, it can be challenging, but it's also incredibly effective. Studies show that active recall significantly improves long-term memory retention. It creates a deeper understanding of the material, making it easier to apply in different contexts. So how do you implement active recall? You can start by making a habit of asking yourself questions after every study session. Try to answer these questions without looking at your notes. You can also use flashcards, with questions on one side and answers on the other. Review these flashcards regularly and try to answer the questions before flipping them over. Remember, the goal here isn't to get every answer correct. The goal is to engage with the material, challenge your memory, and enhance your understanding. Active recall might seem like a lot of work, but it's a powerful tool in your learning arsenal. It's not just about studying more, it's about studying smarter. And as you practice, it becomes easier and more effective. Active recall might be challenging, but it's worth every bit of effort. Last but not least, the Feynman technique. This remarkable learning method is named after Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist known for his ability to make complex scientific principles accessible to everyone. The Feynman technique is a four-step process that can transform the way we understand and retain information. The first step involves choosing a concept you want to learn about. This could be anything from a scientific theory to a mathematical equation. You study it, read about it, watch videos until you feel you've grasped it. Step 2. Now this is where the magic happens. You explain this concept in your own words, as if you were teaching it to someone else. You simplify it, break it down, make it as understandable as possible. The third step is to review. If you stumble or find a gap in your explanation, you go back to your sources. You study again, fill in the blanks, and then repeat the teaching process. The final step is to simplify further. Use analogies, real-life examples, anything that makes the concept relatable and easy to grasp. The beauty of the Feynman technique lies in its simplicity. It forces us to truly understand a concept, not just memorize it. It highlights the gaps in our knowledge and pushes us to fill them. This technique is particularly beneficial for students. It encourages active learning, enhances comprehension, and improves recall. But it's not just limited to academia. The Feynman technique can be used in any area of life where understanding and retention of information are important. So, next time you're faced with a complex concept, don't just read about it. Engage with it, explain it, review it, and simplify it. Use the Feynman technique to make learning a more productive and enjoyable experience. To sum it up, the Feynman technique embodies a powerful truth about learning. As Feynman himself once said, if you can explain it simply, you understand it deeply. Let's quickly recap what we've learned today. We embarked on a journey to discover effective learning techniques that can help us study smarter, not harder. We started with the Pomodoro technique, a time management method that encourages short, focused study sessions with frequent breaks in between. This technique helps maintain high levels of concentration while reducing fatigue. Next, we delved into the world of spaced repetition, a powerful technique that leverages our brain's natural memory patterns. By revisiting information at increasing intervals, we can solidify our understanding and long-term retention of the material. Then came active recall, a strategy that involves actively retrieving information from our memory. We learned that this technique is much more effective than simply rereading notes or textbooks. The process of actively remembering strengthens our memory connections, making it easier to recall information when needed. Lastly, we explored the Feynman technique, named after the famed physicist Richard Feynman. This method encourages us to explain complex ideas in simple terms. If we can teach a concept to someone else, it means we truly understand it ourselves. These techniques, when used in combination, can revolutionize the way we learn. They help us work with our brains, not against them, making the learning process more efficient and enjoyable. Remember, the key to effective learning isn't studying more, it's studying smarter.